The lantern light flickered across the rough wooden walls as she stood near the door, fingers clenched in her worn shawl. The rancher hadn't said a word since she arrived, only watched her with that steady, unsettling gaze. It wasn't cruel, but it was heavy, like he was measuring the weight of her past without asking a single question. Her breath caught, heart hammering as she finally whispered, "Don't look at me like that." The words came out fragile, almost breaking. He didn't turn away. Instead, he took one slow step closer, boots echoing on the floor. He looked at her like a man who'd spent years alone, like someone who had forgotten how hope felt until it stood right in front of him. "I'm not judging you," he said quietly. "I'm deciding." That frightened her more than anger ever could. Outside, the wind howled over the plains, but inside the cabin, the air felt still, waiting. She realized then that her life had shifted the moment his eyes met hers, and there was no stepping back from whatever choice he was about to make. By supper, the silence had grown unbearable. He placed a plate in front of her as if it were the most natural thing in the world, as if she already belonged at his table. She noticed the care in his movements, the way he kept glancing at her as though afraid she might vanish. "You don't owe me anything," she said, pushing the plate slightly away. He finally sat across from her, forearms resting on the table. "I know," he replied. "That's why I'm offering something instead." His voice was steady, but his eyes burned with resolve. He spoke of the town, of rumors that would follow her no matter where she went, of how a woman alone was never truly left in peace. Then he spoke of himself, of empty mornings, of a house that echoed, of a name that meant nothing without someone to share it. When he said the word wife, it hit her like thunder. Not a demand, not a bargain, an offer, the kind that changed everything. She searched his face, looking for cruelty, for regret, for anything that felt false, and found none. The next morning came too quickly. Sunlight spilled through the window as the town gathered in quiet disbelief. She walked beside him, her steps unsure, her pulse roaring in her ears. People whispered as they passed, eyes wide with shock. Yesterday, she had been a woman with nowhere to go. Today, she stood at his side as he spoke vows that sounded more like promises than words. His hand was warm around hers, grounding her when doubt crept in. When he said, "I will protect you," she believed him. When he said, "I choose you," something inside her finally unclenched. She hadn't planned this. She hadn't dreamed of it. But standing there, she realized safety could be unexpected, and love didn't always arrive gently. Sometimes it arrived firm and unyielding, refusing to let go. As the vows ended, the town fell silent, stunned. The rancher didn't look at anyone else. His eyes stayed on her, steady as ever, as if the world beyond her no longer mattered. That night, back at the ranch, she stood on the porch, watching the sun sink behind the fields. He joined her without a word, offering his coat when the air cooled. "You can still leave," he said softly. "If you want." She turned to him then, really looked at him, at the man who had stared when she asked him not to, not out of hunger, but out of certainty. "I don't want to," she answered, surprised by how true it felt. He nodded once, like he'd known all along. The house behind them no longer felt empty. It felt claimed, alive with possibility. When he took her hand again, it wasn't possession, it was partnership. The rancher who had lived alone now had a wife, and the woman who had feared his gaze now understood it. He hadn't been looking to take from her. He'd been looking for someone to stand.